Hey everybody, PJ here. Hello from rainy central Alberta. We're getting a lot of rain out here lately, which is welcome news, especially for farmers and those fighting the fires up north. Alberta is not really that much of a rainy place, which is why forest fires oftentimes get out of hand out here, but this is welcome news. I'm happy to see that. Today I'd like to talk about the Alberta Prosperity Project. The Alberta Prosperity Project has put out what they call the budget for what an independent Alberta will look like. Okay, so this is Jeffrey Rath Substack. For those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Rath is one of the leaders of the Alberta Prosperity Project, which is the not-for-profit organization spearheading the effort to hold an independence referendum for Alberta to separate and gain its independence from Canada. So recently he wrote an article in a Substack, as you guys can see there, titled Alberta Independence Fiscal Plan, The Numbers Ottawa Fears. The document Ottawa doesn't want you to read. So this was published yesterday, June 18th, 2025. So it goes, Friends of Alberta, this is the one. For too long, we've been told that independence is a fantasy, that freedom costs too much, that Alberta can't afford to go it alone. But now the numbers are in, and the math tells a very different story. The value of freedom is the first fully costed, detailed fiscal roadmap for an independent Alberta, backed by conservative estimates, robust data, and decades of fiscal expertise. Authored by respected doctors, economists, and legal minds, this plan lays bare the financial truth Ottawa hopes you'll ignore. What's inside? Alberta's net loss of $191 billion to Ottawa over just 4 years. That's incredible when you read that. That just over 4 years, over the term of a prime minister or president, Alberta has lost nearly $200 billion to Ottawa's taxes and Ottawa's regime. What could have we done with our province and with our people? What sort of prosperity could have we enjoyed as citizens of Alberta if Alberta didn't have the burden that is Canada? But anyways, I'll continue reading. How we can fund our own nation with a surplus. A path to eliminate personal and corporate income tax, even GST. Sign me up. A sovereign Indigenous partnership built on respect, not federal dependency. An independent Alberta could renegotiate a better deal for all Indigenous Albertans, for them to end up doing better, even. Then it says a realistic plan to transition policing, pensions, immigration, and defense with surpluses left over. Yeah, that's what a country does. A country handles all of those things. It's not like Canada's doing that great of a job. In fact, it's doing a terrible job. Immigration is out of control. Our defense, our armed forces are weaker than they've ever been. Police can't keep up with the amount of crimes we're having. So yeah. Alberta could possibly handle that much better on its own. An environmental strategy focused on Alberta's own priorities, not globalist mandates. That's music to my ears. Alberta's energy sector has been completely hindered by globalist policies for the past 10 years and even before then, but especially the past 10 years have done terrible damage to our petroleum industry, to our gas industry, petroleum and gas in general, and therefore construction and all the other things that have to do with the energy industry. Then he further writes, this isn't a manifesto, it's a spreadsheet with soul. A blueprint for independence, prosperity, and renewal. Even if the financial benefits were neutral, the appeal of independence and freedom to act is, in itself, compelling. The Value of Freedom, page 6. Why read it? Because you deserve more than recycled headlines and fear tactics. You deserve the facts, and you deserve the choice. Yeah, there's been a lot of headlines, definitely a lot of fear tactics from those who oppose Alberta independence. And this is only the beginning. You better believe that they're going to continue to come up with things to scare people. They're going to use fear, just like they did with the latest federal campaign, where they managed to win by scaring people into fearing, oh, Trump, orange man bad. So re-elect the people who've been in power for 10 years and have turned this country into the mess that it is today. They're going to try to scare people away from supporting Alberta independence. So he'll have the full report available soon. Last I heard, they had to redact it. They had certain things that needed to be modified. So it is not available as of the time of this video. So it says here, if you believe in truth, not narratives. If you believe Alberta should chart its own course, if you've ever asked, what if we just did it ourselves? Then read this document and share it with everyone you know. This video here is from David Krayden's YouTube channel, and in it, Jeff Rath explains the fiscal plan for an independent Alberta. He also talks about how they were planning for a referendum to happen later in 2025, but due to a slow process with the whole elections, Alberta and all of that, it's probably looking for sometime in the spring of 2026. Let's watch.
We're now looking, at the spring of 2026, which is what Danielle Smith was planning all along. We were hoping to have a referendum this November, because for many of us, the sooner the better. And again, one of the things I want to touch on, and I think it's what you were talking about earlier. I just want people to focus on this, and I'm just going to read it out so that they can understand why it is that Alberta thinks that it needs to leave Canada, right? The Prime Minister of Ontario and Quebec in the Maritimes, Mark Carney, has stated in a book he wrote called Values that Western society is morally rotten. It has been corrupted by capitalism. This requires rigid controls of personal freedoms, industry, and corporate funding. This is not a promise to make the lives of ordinary people better, but temporarily worse. This will be a world of severely constrained choices. Less flying, less meat, more inconvenience, and temporarily more poverty. Assets will be stranded, gasoline cars will be unsellable, and inefficient properties will be unrentable. That's what Mark Carney said in his books, Values, Building a Better World for All.
That sounds like straight up communism. That's straight up communism. That all comes from that book he wrote, which I've mentioned on this channel before. Values, where it's how to make the world a better place type of thing, but it's really just a part of that WEF, World Economic Forum plan where you'll own nothing but somehow be happy. They probably mean that you'll own nothing and you better be happy, because what other choice will you have?
From an Alberta perspective, and from an Alberta Prosperity Project perspective, and an Alberta independence perspective, we do not believe that ordinary people should be made temporarily worse off. What we believe in, and why we're promoting an independent Alberta, is that freedom has value. We've drafted a document. It's a fully costed business plan for an independent Alberta. We called it the Value of Freedom, to show Albertans how much better off they're going to be financially the day that we separate from Canada. And this is all from government sources. These aren't projections. These aren't anything other than applying AI tools to existing government data with regard to funding, finances, fiscal capacity, tax revenues generated by the province of Alberta. The bottom line with regard to this business plan is that in year one, after fully costing an apartment and paying for an Department of External Affairs, paying for a Department of Immigration, paying for Border Control Security Services, taking over all of the work of NAVCAN, building an Alberta Armed Forces, tripling the spend that Canada was putting into Indigenous communities from $1.5 billion to $4.5 to $5 billion through constitutionalized resource revenue sharing, etc. So fully costed, first year, Alberta independent from Canada, Alberta will have a $30 to $50 billion fiscal capacity surplus.
So you're talking about covering all of the services that Canada, the federal government, currently is supposed to cover. You're talking about immigration enforcement, border protection, border patrol, whatever you call it, passport offices, all of the federal services that are supposed to be provided to Alberta would be fully covered, and Alberta would end up having a surplus. Currently, Alberta, because of the equalization payments that were basically forced to have to send to have-not provinces, really parasitic, freeloading provinces like Quebec and some in the Maritimes, Alberta has been posting deficits when we send between 15 and 20 billion dollars a year to other provinces. We could have a surplus every single year if that money stayed right here in our province, in an independent country, in an independent nation of Alberta, where we wouldn't have to be sending our money somewhere else. So we would cover all of those services in a much better way, and we would manage to have surpluses. All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.